on an all-new Dr. Phil.
12 years ago, we covered a horrific story.
That cult, they say, believed the baby was possessed by demons. So police say the cult starved him to death.
A 15-month-old baby boy starved to death and a mother awaiting his resurrection. She has never had the courage to tell her story. That is, until now.
The leader.
This Queen Antoinette ordered everybody to watch to make sure that you didn't give the child any food.
She murdered my son and tried to escape.
The death.
Was the child deprived of food, water, everything for several days?
I don't know. He died in my arms.
He was alive when they handed him back to you.
I'm so sorry. I can't think of...
The shocking details.
The baby's body began to decompose. How long did you stay beside the body?
I couldn't leave him.
And her message.
I will keep making noise about this until somebody that needs to hear me hears me and something won't happen to somebody else.
"12 years ago, we covered a horrific story that was making headlines. A 15-month-old baby boy starved to death and a mother awaiting his resurrection." Take a look.
She says her grandson was murdered, the victim of a cult.
I'm so angry that I want to watch them suffer the same way they made my little baby suffer.
Sita Newton told me that for 2 years she begged, pleaded for help with media and social service agencies, trying to save her daughter and her beloved little infant grandson who had been under the power of a cult.
Newton says the religious group shunned formal health care and education. Cult members dressed in white and gold, targeting young women with children, telling them their families were full of demons and they had to instantly cut contact.
Newton claims the cult brainwashed her daughter, keeping mom and baby virtual prisoners.
That cult, they say, believed the baby was possessed by demons. So police say the cult starved him to death.
Investigators say the boy was starved for 2 days at the urging of Queen Antoinette, the leader of Baltimore-based One Mind Ministries, because he wouldn't say amen after meals.
I cannot blame my daughter. I love her. I keep saying it over and over. I love you. I never stop fighting for you, and I will never stop fighting.
You have to be asking yourself, how do good, innocent people get sucked into such a dangerous mindset? Well, when we sat down with Rhea's mother, Sita, and her attorney, Steve Silverman, they said Sita left no stone unturned, trying to let the authorities know her daughter and grandson were in danger.
2 years ago, I had my daughter and my grandson in the house. Rhea was going to school. She was doing fine. The next thing, she was gone. This religious group was trying to recruit my daughter. Rhea asked me if I can take her to her friend's house because they had promised to babysit for her while she go to school. Later on that day, I called her. She never answered the phone. A couple times we went by the house, knock on the door, they chased us away. I knew my daughter was brainwashed. I called the police department, social services, the congressman's office, the FBI. I was scared for his safety and also my daughter's safety. Sometimes I feel it's my fault, and that haunts me, that I could have saved him.
You tried to alert the authorities. You talked to all kinds of people, right?
Social services said it wasn't their job.
Joining us also is Rhea's attorney, Steve Silverman. Your defense is that she was brainwashed?
There's no question she was brainwashed. What you have is a very gullible, naive young lady. The woman who ran this cult, her name is Queen Antoinette, and she convinced Rhea that she was an apostle of God, that God is with her in their house and giving her orders, and Rhea bought this program hook, line, and sinker.
Well, despite his efforts, Rhea was convicted of child abuse and spent 1.5 years in jail, then was released to a treatment facility while on a 5-year probation. Now, she is 35 years old and has never had the courage to tell her story. That is, until now.
I joined a strict religious sect in 2006. I had just turned 18. I got pregnant at 16. I was living at home. I had a friend that I'd known from school who had a child as well. This person's been calling me and calling me and calling me. You know, I really want you to come here. This is a safe place. It was a Christian place. In the end of it, I gave in. When I got there, she introduced me to a woman who said her name was Queen Antoinette, and I later found out that her real name was Tony. When I met her, her intake process was like a screening for vulnerability. How hurt are you? How much will you believe? She took in a bunch of teenagers and their babies. And the way that it was put to me was just take this time, be here with your son, and just be his mom. You don't have to worry about clothes, food, anything. At the time, I just gotten there. So my family was looking for me. And so in order to protect me, I needed to always have someone with me. I'm not allowed to go out by myself. I was asked to burn my personal documents, Social Security card, ID. As time went on, the rules that were put in place to quote-unquote protect us started to feel a lot more like we're just under control. We have no freedom. You cannot be disobedient. If a person did not follow a rule, the entire household will pull away from you. Queen Antoinette is a dangerous person. She's got no empathy. She didn't care about anything but maintaining control.
Well, Rhea, I'm glad you're here.
Sorry, I need a breath. I haven't seen that face in a long time.
I understand. Just take your time, take a deep breath.
Okay.
Rhea, a lot of people are always curious about how someone gets lured into a situation where they kind of give up control. And I'm interested in talking about what promises were made to you by this One Mind Ministries that made you want to be there.
Well, safety. You know, not having to worry about my safety, my son's safety, security.
And at one point, your mother dropped you off at the park to meet your friend. On that day, did you plan to not go back?
Yes.
So, but your mother didn't know that.
She did not.
So you took some essentials with you and went to the park. And,
yes.
And was that a difficult decision to make?
Yes and no, because I did not want to run away, but the situation that I was in, I felt that this is what I need to do.
Mm-hmm. Because at home, where you had been, you actually worried about your safety, your child's safety.
Yes, I dealt with a lot of things for a while, and one of the things that I feared the most was that once I had my son, that it would spread to him. And I came home and I saw something being done to him. Then that was my deciding moment. At that moment, when I saw physically with my eyes someone trying to hurt my son, at that point, there was no more talking about anything. I was gone.
So you wanted to be safe and you wanted to live a better Christian life.
But there were a lot of rules. You know, you're not allowed to be by yourself, which at first was for our safety. You don't go out because people are looking for you, and you don't want to go back to where you ran away from, so we keep you safe in that way.
Looking back now, are you aware that the idea was to destroy your identity and create a whole new identity that was tied to them?
Yes. And you know what, to be honest, at that time in my life, it did not sound like a bad idea.
And you may have felt safe at first, but there was a point that I know that changed. And when we come back, Rhea says that Queen Antoinette demanded her followers do the unthinkable to Rhea's 15-month-old son. We'll talk about that next.
My son and I would always say a little prayer. And keep in mind, he was only one, so he can't talk very clearly. And he would say, amen. And one morning he didn't say it, and Tony said, something's wrong with that boy. Your son's gonna go to hell.
And later, while all this was going on, you were incarcerated, as was she.
Yes.
And she was telling people in jail things about you. What was she telling you?
Tony definitely presented herself as a safe place to go because she was this Christian woman. But Tony didn't care about any of our lives. She murdered my son and tried to escape the blame.
Well, 15 years ago, Rhea says she was a vulnerable 19-year-old mother with a 15-month-old son, and she joined a religious group called One Mind Ministries to immerse herself in Christianity. Now, she says when her baby wouldn't say amen at the end of grace, the leader, Queen Antoinette, demanded some things. First, she said, there's something wrong with this child. And then she demanded that the child be starved because she said he was possessed by a demon.
A demon.
Rhea says she wanted to save her son, but was convinced she would be defying God's will if she did that. Here's what you told us about the days leading up to his death.
I smell the cameras.
When I was living at the house, my son and we would always say a little prayer. And keep in mind, he was only one, so he can't talk very clearly. And he would say, amen. And one morning he didn't say it, and Tony said, something's wrong with that boy. And then she said that the only way to stop this is by prayer and fasting. And then she told me there was a demon inside of him. It was all happening too fast. And I don't remember exactly what I said to her, but I remember her becoming very threatening to me. She said, you don't have to listen to me. You can do whatever you want, but your son's gonna go to hell, and you're gonna be responsible for that. And then before you can even say anything, she's already told the entire household to watch me. Watch her. Make sure she doesn't give him anything else. I quickly became aware that no one's gonna help you. And if you feed him, someone's gonna tell her. And if you get caught doing that, this may never end. I started melting down, and I was constantly crying. I heard her say to someone, take her from him. She's always crying. So she had another member of the household take him because I was crying too much and it was annoying to her. I didn't know what to do. How do I escape? You go through so many scenarios in your head and you realize, I can't get out. Finally, for whatever reason, she decided the fasting was over. And so I tried to feed him, and as I was feeding him, he died. Before I can process grieving him, I was blamed for murdering him. So then I am in the unique position of murderer/mom, but I'm always mom. And that's a part of me that I won't let die. No matter who focuses on the murder part, you know, that's not me. I'm okay.
Okay. And I know that's hard to see, but there was a point in there that this Queen Antoinette ordered, I guess it's her daughter, Trivia Williams, to take control of the child, and then everybody to watch to make sure that you didn't give the child any food.
Yes.
Okay, and so was the child deprived of food, water, everything. For several days?
I believe. As far as timelines and certain things, I don't know. There's a lot of things that I don't remember. I think at a certain point, my brain just shut down. But I don't know how long it was. I relied on police reports and autopsy reports to try to give me an idea. I don't know what month it was. All I know is that it was cold outside.
And then when you believe when they could see that the baby was not thriving, that they came and gave the baby back to you and said, okay, you can feed the baby now.
Yes.
But by that point,
I mean, I tried.
it was too late.
I tried, but he couldn't get the food down.
Okay. And so did Javon,
He died in my arms.
he was alive when
Yeah.
they handed him back to you?
I'm so sorry. I could...
Listen, you're doing great. Let's take a short break. When we come back, Rhea says that she was waiting to see what would happen because she was told that Javon would be resurrected. She'll tell us about that after the break. how long did you stay beside the body?
How long, I don't know. You know, I couldn't leave him. Like, physically, I saw the decomposition, but to me, I just couldn't make myself separate.
And when nothing happened, what did this Queen Antoinette say to you?
It's easy for people to judge and think the worst of me, but anyone is capable of being manipulated or brainwashed. It's just someone who is in a vulnerable place, and they run into someone who provides all of the answers, and you don't find out what the price is until it's too late.
The leader of One Mind Ministries, Queen Antoinette, is serving a 50-year sentence for second-degree murder and child abuse of Rhea's 15-month-old son in 2008. Now, Rhea says she knows it's difficult to comprehend how any mother could watch her son starve. But the fact is that it was mind control. Now, her son was wrested from her and was starved. And when he was given back to you and you tried to feed him, it was too late.
It was too late.
He couldn't eat.
He was too weak.
And what were you told at that time about Javon?
Well, she immediately instructed everyone to get down on their knees and to pray, and that he was not dead, that he was coming back alive.
That he would be resurrected.
He would be resurrected.
And what did you think?
I did whatever the hell she told me to do, because at that point, all I have left is that body, and I'm not leaving that body.
Okay, and how long did you stay beside the body?
How long, I don't know.
And at some point, I hate to say this, but it's part of the truth, the baby's body began to decompose.
Yes. I mean, I saw that, but I couldn't, I couldn't leave him. I just couldn't lose. I couldn't let it go. So I did, and like physically, I saw the decomposition, but to me, I just couldn't make myself separate at that time.
And when nothing happened, what did this Queen Antoinette say to you?
She would tell me my faith wasn't enough.
Pretty soon, there was a visit from the landlord. And so now everyone had to move, right? Everybody had to leave?
Yeah, we did move, and we put the body in a suitcase to take it with us.
And you all go to Philadelphia?
Yeah.
With the baby's body in the suitcase?
Yes.
When you got to Philadelphia, what happened to the suitcase?
She met a man and got him to have all of us stay with him. And then she said we needed to go to New York. And we were carrying it with us everywhere. And so we put the suitcase in a shed and locked it and kept the key.
In Philadelphia?
In Philadelphia.
Has it occurred to you, have you accepted the fact that the baby's not going to resurrect at this point?
I do think there's a part of me that just felt like this is over. Mm-hmm. And then I'm scared too. I don't want to leave it here, but at the same time, if I stay here and they all leave, then it's just me and my son's body. And in a weird way, there was a fear at some point too that they could be trying to get rid of me too, or put it on. They could easily say I don't know anything about this. I wasn't here, and I don't know. I just knew in the back of my head, I just felt like I'm following this to the end. That's all I kept telling myself.
And how was she treating you at this point?
She didn't talk to me much. And I felt kind of like, in a way, that I felt like she kind of wanted to get rid of me in a way.
When we come back, Rhea says the deprogramming she went through was not easy. We're going to talk about how all of this became unraveled when we come back. A trial ensued for the other 3 defendants. And you remember this Queen Antoinette laughing at trial. What was she laughing at?
Swear I won't forget this, why do I regret this? In my mind reckless, thoughts are feeling endless. Sitting up, I'm breathless, anxiety's infectious. I feel so defenseless, betrayed and embarrassed. I hate being open, I hate being broken. I feel like an ocean filled up with emotion. Anger ain't a potion, rub it on like lotion. I can feel it soaking, reopen, the scars have awoken. I can't move on till I let go. I feel so lost, never at home. Need to be strong, every breath hold. Cause I can't move on till I let go. I can't move on till I let go. I feel so lost, never at home. Need to be strong, every breath hold. Cause I can't move on till I let go.
Allow me the freedom to speak in my own words and not just read about me. My life is more than just a headline.
Now, we said earlier that 3 people ultimately wound up getting sentenced to 50 years in prison for this. This suitcase with this decomposing body of your child is locked in a shed in Philadelphia. and you go to New York. How was this suitcase discovered in this shed?
My mother actually had been having she'd been calling, and I think there was a detective that was actually following us at the time.
Missing person?
Yeah.
For you and?
For me and my son. And they came into the apartment in New York, who they just burst through the door one morning. And I remember the one detective, he had me in the corner and he just stared at me and just kept asking me questions. And, you know, he just said, "We're not going anywhere." I was scared, but a part of me was like so relieved at the same time, you know, because this was like coming to an end. It was like coming to an end. And even though I know that I'm going to get taken away, there was a huge weight of like just like relief.
I want to read a statement from Julie Drake, Office of the State Attorney for Baltimore City, May 18th, 2010. It was very clear to everyone that the most culpable defendant in this case was Queen Antoinette. She issued the order to withhold food and water from Javon. It was clear to everyone who interviewed Rhea that she had been indoctrinated through classic brainwashing techniques into a cult. This was not an individual who was acting out of classic criminal intent, malice, anger, desire for revenge or gain, but rather a mother who has and will suffer anguish over the result of her inaction. Now, that was how they ultimately read this.
Yeah.
And at first you were charged with
Murder.
first-degree murder,
Yes.
along with others, right?
Yes.
And you pled, right? You
Yes.
didn't want to fight this.
No, there's an extreme amount. I mean, the end part of her statement, the results of my inaction. There's always a part of me that wishes I would have done something different.
Right. And a trial ensued for the other three defendants. And you remember this Queen Antoinette laughing at trial. What was she laughing at?
I have no idea. I remember being on the witness stand, and I just looked over at her, and she just was laughing and smiling.
And while all this was going on, you were incarcerated, as was she.
Yes.
And she was telling people in jail things about you. What was she telling them?
She actually had a few people in the jail who were calling her mother as well. She had gotten them to, she gained their confidence, and she told them that I'd hurt babies before, that me and my mother had hurt children before. Basically, she was shifting all the blame on me because I'm the mom.
And wasn't she telling people that you're involved with children, that you had cut them up and boiled them?
Yes.
Obviously trying to mobilize people against you.
Yes.
Hoping that somebody would aggress against you.
Yes.
And you spent how long incarcerated?
I believe it was 1.5 years.
And we'll talk about what happened after that and how we got from there to here whenever we come back.
When my daughter was born, she had a medical problem. While my daughter was in the intensive care unit, Child Protective Services opened an investigation on me.
New Dr. Phil.
I suffer with Tourette syndrome.
People have accused you of faking this.
It's real. I decided to show people the real me.
That's tomorrow. Close.
I've made lots of mistakes in the past. I wasn't ready for everything that I went through. But it is extremely important to me to use that pain and find purpose in it. I have the fire, I just don't know what to do with it.
Well, Rhea is now the mother of a 3-year-old daughter who she says has absolutely saved her life.
When people know about my past, and then they find out that I have a daughter, I get judgment. And I think I've had enough of that. When my daughter was born, she had a medical problem. While my daughter was in the intensive care unit, Child Protective Services opened an investigation on me. They did do a 6-month investigation where I had to be supervised and I was not allowed to be alone in the home with her. I felt bad because it's like, oh my God, I'm someone that no one trusts with a baby. But at the same time, it was like, oh my God, let them see, let them investigate. Part of my fight is to make sure that I am being accountable. Because you can have 3 moms in the mall yelling at their kid to stop touching the toy, but if I'm one of those moms, why is she yelling at her kid like that? You know, I get the extra look.
Oh, we're not jumping on the stairs. Come on.
I understand that because a lot of people don't know how to process what happened to me. But I don't have time to entertain the judgment. She's my daughter, I'm her mom. My story might not make you happy, my life might not make you happy, but what's important to me right now is that I go forward because she needs me full time.
Rhea, one of your biggest concerns is you don't want anything to happen with Child Protective Services or any of the social agencies with regard to your daughter, right?
That's a fear, but I keep myself accountable.
You've written to me a few times. You wrote at the end of last year and said, my mom came on the show to discuss this, you called it a cult that I was in. I want a chance to tell my story. It doesn't belong to the world, it's mine. I also want some help to start advocacy for spiritual abuse and postpartum depression.
Yeah.
And you're looking for a way to heal and to help others not get in this situation.
And also my position in this is that I was there and I am his mom. And so in some ways, it's okay to say you are responsible. But also it took me years to admit that I was also a victim in this. And there's no way that I could have just said, I'm going to grab him and run out the door. There is always a real threat. And I just let things happen because I didn't even know what to do. And I just didn't do anything. What we went through, he did not deserve, none of it. I won't let him and all of the pain that he went through be for nothing.
Did you have at the time the ability, the ego strength, the psychological strength to pick that child up and walk out that front door?
No, I was terrified.
What did you think would happen if you did that?
Immediately after that, she told everyone to watch me so that she said that to give the illusion of a choice. I mean, ultimately I can try to walk out the door, but again, if I don't make it out the door with him, there is more consequence. If I make it out the door and he doesn't.
So you felt your safest option was to stay there and try to see it through?
To be honest, I felt that the more obedient I was, this would not go as far as it did. And then it just kept going, and then it just kept going, and I could not deal with this. And I hate myself for that. I hate myself for that every day. But the fact is, I couldn't deal with it, and I could not process this. I could not fight this. I remember feeling like if I just knew how to fight it, then maybe I can fight it. I don't know how to fight it. So you shut down. You cannot show anything that is indicative of not going along. If you do that, you risk the chance of more. And this is another thing that was mentioned, is that, you know, my disobedience will hinder his process. This was not faith. This was just strictly control. This is, I see where you're weak. I'm going to stick the knife and I'm going to twist it because I can. And there's nothing you can do.
Do you still feel that you failed?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, I ask myself the same questions. Rhea, just run out the freaking door. You know, just run out the damn door. But in the moment, you know, by the time I get to someone, if I come back, is he even still going to be here? And I'm at the point now where it's like judging me will do nothing. And there are still people that are in some sort of a situation like this. And he's still a life that's lost. And I'm sorry for all the things I didn't do right, but I'm trying, and I will keep making noise about this until it gets to the point where somebody that needs to hear me hears me, and something won't happen to somebody else.
Well, we're going to add a woman to this conversation who can relate to Rhea's story because she grew up in a strict religious community led by her own mother, who called herself Mother Anna. We're going to add her when we come back.
Former members of the cult say Mother Anna would torture and abuse members for their sins by various means.
All of this coming to light thanks to her daughter.
Joy turned her mother in back in 2016, eventually leading to her arrest in this Marietta home.
You're going to be in the Los Angeles area and would like to watch a live taping here in the studio? Go to drphil.com and click on Be Part of the Audience and select In Studio.
Rhea says she never met anyone who can relate to what she's been through, but Joy Fluker can. Her mother, Anna Young, was the leader of the House of Prayer.
Police say Young is a former cult leader who ran a religious boarding school in Florida. The children called her Mother Anna.
Former members of the cult say Mother Anna would torture and abuse members for their sins by various means.
All of this coming to light thanks to one woman who turned her in, her daughter.
Mother said she's got to go to the box. I remember like having a shrieking fear. The box.
Her daughter, Joy Fluker, reliving those traumatic events that began in the 1980s and spanned through the early 90s. In those years, these faces were some of the many who were starved, burned, whipped with extension cords, and some, like toddlers Iman Harper and 2-year-old Katania Jackson, murdered. Joy turned her mother in back in 2016, eventually leading to her arrest in this Marietta home.
Joy Fluker says she wants to turn the pain of what happened at the House of Prayer into purpose.
What I want to do is support those who are considering speaking out by saying, listen, I know what you're going through.
Well, Joy, thank you so much for being here. I know you've been listening to everything that we've been talking about, and that's not easy, I'm sure, because you've been down some of those paths, right?
Mm-hmm. I completely understand. When I heard you talking, it just resonated with me. Our church community, believed that my mother was basically the voice of God. You're mentioning the fasting. Iman Harper, who I still have nightmares about. We all as a church would have to fast and pray, 3-day fast. No food, no water. And it didn't matter how old the children were, they also had to fast. Mm-hmm. And Iman Harper had to fast as well. And different times of the punishment, he wasn't allowed to eat or drink or anything. I remember being a child once. I had to give him his water after he had went through a fast as a punishment. And he was starving. And I remember the dead skin from his lips being so much it touched my finger. And I remember pulling away. I was a little kid myself. I was scared. And I remember other children, some of the pictures you saw on the screen, their mothers were there with them, and they witnessed their children being beat. One of the other children was beat so much she started having, seizures, and one of those seizures killed her.
How did it feel to see your own mother being the perpetrator in that? What did you say to yourself about that at the time?
Well, I was a child, so I thought it was normal. I thought she was the voice of God, too. I wanted to be her. I thought at first that this was God's will. I mean, I just believed everything. I just didn't want to get in trouble. I wanted to be obedient because I didn't want to get the next beating. I didn't want to get thrown outside. I didn't want to get put in the attic. Yeah.
So what can you do if someone you love is joining an unsafe religious group. We'll talk about all that after the break. Our website and subscribe to our newsletter. You'll get weekly updates, life strategies, and exclusive video that you won't find anywhere else. Plus, on drphil.com, you can see sneak previews of upcoming shows. Log on today. You know, I've asked people, how many cults do you think there are operating in America? The estimates are at least 10,000 cults are currently operating in the United States. 10,000. And how is that possible? The World Wide Web. That's how it's possible. That's how they recruit, and that's how they do it. It's so hard to get people to hear you when you're in a situation like that, because it's A, hard to describe, and B, hard for people to imagine. You have a nonprofit called Prevent the Pain. Tell me about the organization.
So, you know, and after, you know, I spoke up regarding my mom, I wanted to speak to someone else, just like I wanted to breathe air, that had spoken up against someone that they love, knowing that that person would suffer consequence for what they did.
You actually turned your mother in.
Yes, there was a part of me that hoped that my memories were, you know, mistaken, and that there was a chance that maybe because of all the other sufferings, I was delusional a little bit. I was hoping that it wasn't true, but I knew that I could no longer live with myself without speaking up, because I felt like, what kind of mother, what kind of person am I if I'm okay with the fact that I believe that my mother is responsible for a child's death? So, you know, I just realized that, you know, in going through that, and then, of course, learning the truth that it really was accurate, my memories were accurate, that a lot of people don't speak up because they feel like they're going to be this label as a tattletale, a snitch, or whatever. And this nonprofit is to say, okay, be that, own that. I'll be this tattletale, I'll be this snitch if it's going to save someone's life, if it's going to prevent them from having pain, because all the pain that was endured at the house of prayer could have been prevented if someone who knew what my mother was capable of spoke up right away.
And that's really what, one of the things you want to do is you want to help people that might be in your situation, because you wish somebody would have knocked on the door for you, or
way
before.
To you. Yes, way before it got to that point.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I hope the two of you will take some time when we finish here today and talk, because I think you can really give her a track to run on and some guidance in how to help. And God bless you for your organization. Well, I want to thank my guests today. And for more information about Joy's nonprofit organization, check out preventthepain.org. That's preventthepain.org. And I'll have a link on drphil.com and on our Facebook page. And I hope you will click on there. I hope you will support the organization. I certainly do and will. If you want more resources about extreme religious groups, mind control, education, the best place to go is the Cult Education Institute, which was founded by my good friend Rick Ross. Former members of extreme religious communities frequently participate at the public message boards to share their stories. We'll have both websites on drphil.com.